While reading and viewing my Podmates pitches this past week, I found it interesting to see the different groups of people and representations that my Podmates wanted for their movies to surround. And I even found myself wishing that some of these pitches and storylines were actual movies that were being produced. First, I was drawn to Jessica's pitch on male figure skaters and the stigma that surrounds them and their potential eating disorders. I liked the specificity of the group that Jessica picked because it made for a very compelling topic and it hasn't really been seen before in film and television. And I think it'll bring a story that isn't often told to the forefront of people and audiences' minds. And I thought it was a very good idea for Jessica to say that before creating the movie, she would get input from specialists related to the topic of eating disorders in sports and the stigmas that surround them and the people who struggle with them. Jessica said she was worried about the stigmas surrounding eating disorders, but to combat this, maybe there could be a scene where Nick talks to his friends and family about his eating disorder, and they turn out to be completely understanding and supportive and even guide Nick to get the help that he needs. I think this would be a good way to help break the stigma surrounding male eating disorders for Jessica's movie. Next, I want to talk about Olivia's pitch. Her pitch surrounded the married couple with the wife as a woman and a lawyer and a person of color, and the husband as a male nurse. This pitch would attempt to oppose gender roles and stereotypes and allow people of color to be seen in higher career positions. I liked that the conflict within the movie would be from external factors, not from within the relationship of the couple. One thing that made me weary, though, was the fact that Olivia would normalize the mixed race couple and not highlight the fact that they are different races as a situation that would arise. While I think mixed race relationships should be normalized, I also believe that the fact that they are different races should be highlighted. Mixed race couples often face different kinds of discrimination and struggles and have to teach their mixed race children why they will be treated a certain way in society or in schools by bigots and ignorant people. And I think including a scene where the couple educates their kinds of dangers of being a person of color in today's society. Acceptance should be the only thing people of color and mixed race couples should be faced with, but that's just not the case today. I think the fact that Olivia's main characters are a mixed race couple should be mentioned to educate viewers and help further normalize these kind of couples and relationships. I was intrigued to find that Addie and Maisie had very similar pitch ideas surrounding the same underrepresented group of drag queens. They both include heterosexual men becoming drag queens and those men fighting the stereotypes that surround drag queens. I liked Addie's enthusiasm to represent different groups, but still made those different groups fit together and not overwhelm the audience with too much representation. Addie's film is more of a drama that includes somber events such as Brad and David's hate crime. I like this inclusion because it shows the harsh reality or ignorance in today's society. One thing that I really liked from Addie's pitch was her idea with colored palettes with dark colors when the main character is at work and around his coworkers, and then the bold and lively colors that will be in the film when the main character is able to act on his passion of being a drag queen. After viewing and reading Addie's pitch, I found myself wanting to watch the movie that would be created from it, and honestly, it should just be made. Maisie's drag queen movie, on the other hand, would be more of a comedy. I liked this contrast of genre because Maisie's movie would show the fun side of being a drag queen, while Addie's would show the troubles that drag queens face because of the stereotypes and stigmas that society prescribes to them. Another pitch from my pod that really stood out to me was Ari's. Everything seemed very well thought out, from the plot to the camera angles to the colors within the film. And one thing that I really enjoyed from Ari's pitch was the fact that her movie would pass the Bechdel test and be a movie about women for women. Films passing the Bechdel test is rare, and I think more female films should be created. Another thing from Ari's pitch that really stood out to me was the idea of the camera work being pretty shaky towards the beginning of the movie when Lauren is still depressed, and then later when Lauren begins to figure her life out and open up to Jasmine, the camera angles are more steady, just like her life and her emotional state is becoming more steady. Ari also thought of color for her pitch, the idea of Jasmine as being seen with yellow to compare her to the sun, and Lauren being seen with blue to show her depressive state was an amazing idea. I also liked that the scenes with the two women, once they tell each other that they are in love with each other, would be green, because it would be the mix of the two colors, and I thought that that was a really cool idea. Lastly, we have Gabrielle's pitch. While I was intrigued at Gabrielle's attempt at including multiple different groups of people to have more representation in her movie, I was also extremely concerned when reading and viewing the pitch. I myself was already confused when reading it. My concern with Gabrielle's movie is that there are too many characters, too many storylines, and all in all, just way too much going on. All of these storylines, characters, and representations can be extremely confusing for viewers of the film. These different identities could be new, and the fact that they have to learn all these new identities and different representations could be overwhelming for them. I was wondering if the film could just pick one storyline and focus on that to make it easier to follow, or maybe something could be done to make the movie more cohesive. Gabrielle asks the question, how can a film have too much representation? And answers with, it cannot, but I don't agree with this at all. I feel like the storylines and basis of this movie are not realistic because of the amount of representation there is. A small town Catholic school would never have this much diversity. The amount of representation in this film, to me, is confusing and overwhelming. I believe there is such a thing as a film having too much representation, and when you put all these people into one film in one Catholic school, it becomes a little unbelievable. But besides that, my main concern with Gabrielle's film is the storyline of the rape. This is a very sensitive issue, and as someone who knows people who have experienced this storyline could be a huge trigger if not done properly. And also, I feel like, why play into the stereotype that African American men are dangerous people? Why not have Margaret be black and her rapist be white? With the amount of white male teen rapists getting off because they have too much potential in their life, why not destroy this view and ruin the rapist's life? I understand the desire for representation, but by making the rapist black, isn't that just destroying the representation that has been included in this movie? There are already so many negative depictions of African American men in the media, so why add to that? I understand that Gabrielle wants to include more representation, but including all of these storylines will cause the audience to be overwhelmed, as I was overwhelmed while reading it. The story deals with a lot of different things and difficult things that need to have professional points of views included in making the movie and in the making of the story if it is to be done properly. Even then, I don't know if the film will be cohesive or even understandable enough to appease the viewers and help educate them. After viewing and reading my classmates' pitches, I was intrigued and even wanted some of them to be made into actual movies. After completing this assignment and seeing my podmates' submissions of this assignment, I can say that I enjoyed this pitch better than pitch 1 because it included more creativity and more thought, and overall I just enjoyed coming up with this pitch more.